welcome to our Superintendent's Update for February 2019. Sorry I missed the last couple of months, but we'll try to bring you up to speed on some of the things that have happened on campus and at board meetings, etc. I really won't mention a lot from December or January other than to say one of the things that I shared, and I think it would be appropriate to mention during the January board meeting, is this year several staff members have been busy writing different grants, and I want to kind of highlight some of those grants because they just kind of happen, and a lot of good things happen because of them. But we were fortunate enough, Jeff Aki and Bob Stevens and Bob Perry, and there were probably a handful of other folks that were involved in putting together a lottery grant earlier this year, and we received kind of a supplement to that. We received, when everything was said and done, about a $135,000 lottery grant, and with those proceeds we are purchasing 3 robots. These are not the FIRST Robotics robots. These are the robots that are actually in the manufacturing plants, etc. We're getting more and more companies that are moving in that direction with some of their automation, and this will give us an opportunity, industrial training, to train individuals to not only use those robots but also to troubleshoot them, etc. And so kudos to Mr. Stevens, Mr. Aki, Mr. Perry, and others that were involved in that. Also, Ashley Fickner wrote a Carl Perkins supplemental grant to allow us to purchase equipment for our new criminal justice and emergency services program for high school students that will start this coming August. That was a $20,000 grant, and certainly will go a long way to try to help us as it relates to purchasing some of the specialized equipment for that program. And then also at the beginning of this school year, Rusty Gilpin, Curtis Rhodes, and again probably a couple other folks were heavily involved in putting together a rural EMS grant. The actual award of those grants is a state entity, but they received a little under $100,000 grant that will allow them to not only purchase equipment but training, etc., to really expand our ability to provide EMS, paramedic training, etc., to the rural parts of not only our region but also the state. So if you kind of do a little quick arithmetic there, well over $250,000 worth of grants there that those individuals brought to Gordon Cooper Technology Center that are going to allow us to really do some great things. One other item that I want to highlight, and I'm going to give some credit here, Kama Watts and Sarah Weeks and probably Joni and a handful of other folks were heavily involved in our recently being awarded the TSET. That's the Tobacco Settlement Endowment Trust Authority. It's a state level authority. We were recognized as a certified healthy campus, and I believe we were recognized at the highest level possible, which I believe is the excellence level. Am I remembering that correctly, Sarah? So that's great for them, and I don't know that you still have time to go and meet with the folks that are on campus today. Wellness till about 2 o'clock. I think Mr. Perry was going to have blood drawn. There's a joke that goes along with that, but I won't share it. But nonetheless, a lot of stuff happens in the health and wellness area, and Kama and Sarah and so many others work really hard to provide those opportunities, and when you get a chance, give them a big thank you. Moving to the February board meeting that I believe Andy has got posted here on this particular cast. We talked about several different things during the February board meeting. One of the things was our audit was given to the board, the financial audits that take place every single year that looks at in very much great detail all the finances of the district. I guess I would say first of all, big thanks to finance. They do the yeoman's work there as it relates to all of that. And as I mentioned during the board meeting, they deserve that credit, and it's very difficult to have an audit that we seem to get each and every year that the auditors typically their conclusion is, man, we really like working with your people. They do a great job. They provide all the information, etc. What I told the board and those that were present at the board meeting is they do that, and sometimes people maybe aren't as understanding maybe as they should be as it relates to, well, why can't I do this, and so on and so forth. Sometimes the finance department has to be a group that says, well, we can't do that, and they try to explain to you why you can't do certain kinds of things. It almost always ties back to it's not legal to do those kinds of things, and so finance does a great job, and then so when you get a chance, we need to congratulate them for that. I think that's probably 20 plus years running where the audit came back very, very clean, and the auditors were very impressed with what they received from Gordon Cooper. Also, shared a little information, and I appreciate all the staff and students being a part of our groundbreaking last week. I think a week ago Friday, and it turns out that maybe this Friday would have been better, maybe not, who knows, but turned out really good. Had a lot of really good visitors and guests, and excited to see the progress on campus as it relates to the Public Safety Center. I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. We did deal with some policy changes. Item 7 specifically deals with Administrative Regulation 121 as well as District Policy 119. Those are a result of the auditors coming on campus and sharing information, etc. And one of the things that they often do as auditors is they'll make recommendations on policies or procedures that we do or do not have in place. And so specifically AR 121 and DP 119, which you received earlier this week in an email. So if you want a copy, it was sent to you, and it will also be updated on the website as well. But those deal with just adding language to those policies that's necessary to kind of meet the needs of the auditors. We did deal with some activity fund sub-accounts, had a pretty lengthy list of surplus property, mainly due to 5S and all of our efforts there. Got a few folks going on some various out-of-state trips that should be pretty well self-explanatory. Have a couple of new staff members. One, many of you may have already had the chance to meet. Holly Dunsworth went from food service, and now she is our assessment specialist and doing a really good job. We're excited to have her there. And then beginning on March the 6th, we will have a young lady that will be our HR coordinator. Mentioned to you earlier, beginning about that same time, actually a week or so later, Sarah Weeks will move to her new position as director within Business and Career Services. And so instead of replacing her current position as Director of Internal Excellence, we're doing away with the Director of Internal Excellence position. That will no longer be a position as soon as Sarah transitions, but we are going to have an HR coordinator. And Charlotte Burchett is that person, and we're excited to have her as well. Again, she'll start on March the 6th. I will tell you, we have offered the instructor position for the new criminal justice program, and that will become official at the next board meeting, but we've got that hiring taken care of as well. Item 15 deals with an extra duty contract with Jay Loudon. Jay Loudon is a part of some of the changes that will take place for the remainder of this year and probably into next year. Has taken on some administrative responsibilities, specifically with court reporting and the aviation campus. Anticipate that continuing into next year, and so this extra duty contract dealt specifically with her new responsibilities. Items 16, 17, 18, 19 are all simply items that deal with finances, etc. And want to circle back to item 6, which as I told the board, will be on the agenda until the new building is completed, sometime hopefully in December of 2019. But that agenda item basically says an update and discussion regarding the Public Safety Center. And so if you keep up with the agendas, you will see that each and every month. And we're really doing it for two reasons. One, we want to keep the board updated on how the actual construction project is progressing and kind of give them at least a monthly update there. But the other reason we're doing that is the financial, I'll call it arrangement associated with the public safety facility is a little different for us. I'll not go into great detail. If you want great detail, get with me later and I'll clarify it. But basically, it's a lease purchase agreement, and so we will not directly pay the vendor from Gordon Cooper. Actually, the bank that loaned us the money for that will pay the vendor, and so we had to have some way to track that and also to inform the board on everything that's happening as it relates to that. And so that is the other reason that agenda item is on there, is to try and provide a venue to have the board updated on construction and have the board updated as it relates to the finances on the project itself. Speaking of the project, I'm going to kind of shift here just for a second, give Andy a chance to catch up. I know we've got folks at the Seminole campus and folks at the aviation campus, and we'll try to do something between now and the end of the fiscal year to kind of update them there. But what you should see on your screen at this particular point in time is an architect's rendering of what would be the west-facing side of the new facility. I'm going to go into a little bit of detail. You got it, Andy? Mm-hmm. A little bit of detail there. This is visually exactly what it's going to look like. It's going to be a very nice building, roughly about 20 to 21,000 square feet. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail in just a second on kind of the floor plan, but it will be immediately south of the diesel building. The building itself is going to be a little bit further west, closer, I guess, to the main south drive, and then there'll be another drive on the east side of this facility as well. And in addition to this facility, there'll be some parking, and then there will be a fire training tower that will be east of this facility by probably about 75 to 100 feet, something like that. And so that will kind of constitute the entire project. Expecting that project to cost in the neighborhood of $5 to $5.5 million. And that's everything. That's the building, that's the fire training tower, that's parking, that's furniture, that's networking, that's safety cameras, access control, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's basically as close to a turnkey cost as you can possibly talk about. So let me pull up another picture here. I'm going to embarrass Bob Stevens again. He's always very good to help us out because of his previous life. What do you think? Okay. He previously was in the printing business and has a wealth of talents. This happens to be one of many, but he put this together. And what you see on the screen is basically the floor plan of the building itself. And so the elevation view that you just saw is what the side that faces the main south road will look like. And this is the actual inside. This happens to be a furniture layout. It's not etched in concrete. This is just to kind of give you an idea, but I'm going to kind of start from what would be the north end over here and then move that way. Need to move it over? Fine. Okay. Sarah says no, Andy, and you're saying yes. No, okay. All right. Fine. What you've got on the north end, this would be the closest one to the diesel building and closest one to the parking that is on the south side of diesel. You're going to have a conference room here, probably handle about 150 people. There will be what in essence is a catering kitchen, so if we ever have to provide meals at that particular site for groups, etc., we've got a kitchen there, not to necessarily cook it, but to truly be a catering kitchen to warm it and things of that nature. There's some storage on either side. And then down at the bottom, it basically is a computer lab and also will be a place where we can do dispatcher training. Remember, this is a public safety center, and so you've got to kind of broaden your understanding of public safety beyond just fire and police, everything that is involved in public safety. And so dispatcher training is another one of those things that we have done and we continue to be asked for. And so we've got a space there for computer labs for anybody that would be in that area and have need for computer labs, and also for dispatcher training. There is kind of a office suite there for a receptionist and some other offices. Some of those offices will be utilized by the Shawnee Police Department, the Shawnee Fire Department, specifically for their trainers. This is not a decision I'll make, but Mr. Perry will have that opportunity along with the board. There very possibly will be a support staff member that will be at that site the vast majority of the time during the day for scheduling purposes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so you see a receptionist area right here, and that's where that person would be. Haven't decided anything beyond what I'm about to tell you, which is we will move our paramedic program to this building. It will be right here, and so they have a classroom, they have a training lab, so their ambulance and other kinds of training equipment will move to that particular area just for paramedics, and then they'll have a classroom there for that purpose. So any kind of paramedic or EMS related training will be conducted in that area. This classroom across the hall will be where our new criminal justice program would be. Again, just a nice sized classroom for 18 to 20 students that we expect AM, 18 to 20 in the PM, etc. These two classrooms right here are not necessarily designated for anything other than what I'm going to call continuing education. So a police department somewhere needs to bring 10 people in for some specialized training. They've got a space that they can go for that specialized training. These rooms are probably set up for anywhere from 20 to 30 people, and there'll be a classroom set up. But those two classrooms right here and right here right now are not dedicated for one particular purpose other than as they need to do continuing education, they can do that. Across the hall, it says training room. One of the needs that you have as you're doing both police and fire training is for more physical kinds of activities. Some of that's hand-to-hand kinds of things, etc. Police have talked to us about being able to pull a car into this area and train people on how to remove people from vehicles, etc. We don't think about those kinds of things, but they're going to have a larger kind of, if you can imagine, a small gym. It's not a true gym, but it's a larger than a classroom, a little higher elevation, etc. And it will be used for those kinds of things. It is not where we'll have treadmills and weightlifting equipment, all right? It will strictly be for purposes of training, law enforcement, fire, etc., for those kinds of things. Adjoining these will be some shower facilities. I'm a little bit excited about that because those shower facilities, first and foremost, are for those folks that go into that area and need to clean up when they're finished, etc. But you'll have an opportunity on this main campus, if you exercise during lunch or want to have access to a place where you can clean up a little bit before you come back to work. Now there will be an actual place on campus where that can happen. There are facilities for women and men, a couple of showers in each area, and it's a true locker room kind of space, as it were. On the back end here at the top of what you see, you probably can't read it, but it's a shooting simulator and a driving simulator. We've actually had that equipment on this campus in a partnership with the Shawnee Police Department for a few years now. We'll be moving that equipment into these areas. Again, that's very specific training for that particular need, and we'll utilize those for that area. And then you can never have enough storage in any area, and so right across the hall there's a large storage space for not only the things that go on inside the building, but it's probably going to be more utilized for the things that go on outside that building. As I mentioned to you, as you're looking at this, the top of this particular picture would be westward facing, and the bottom would be eastward facing, so pond. There will be a second pond that will be built just south of the existing pond. Its primary purpose is going to be to test firefighter equipment. They do a lot of testing where they need access to water, and they would rather not be using treated water that comes out of a fire hydrant because that's a lot more expensive. And so they'll have the ability with that second pond there to test pumping equipment and things of that nature. And so if you want to know why there's a second pond, that's the primary purpose for that second pond. I think that's about it as it relates to Public Safety Center. As I said, I'll try to take some of these pictures and maybe show the folks on the Seminole campus and the aviation campus when we have an opportunity to do that. But we're excited about that, excited about the opportunities. A couple of other things that I might highlight that happened today. This week has been, I think, what's known as National Court Reporters Week. And our court reporting class has been doing a lot of different things. I think yesterday here on the main campus, they were in the break area having a competition with students on who can text on their phone as fast as a court reporter can type his or her notes as a court reporter would do. And I believe they beat everyone with the exception of one student that may have violated the rules and used Siri for that purpose as opposed to actually texted. But it was a good time, had a good time, enjoyed it. We continued that today. We're fortunate enough to have some relationships that we always can benefit from. And one of the state Supreme Court justices, Doug Combs, from Shawnee, came down and visited with our court reporters today and encouraged them and talked to them about the great opportunities in that particular area. We will also be moving our court reporting students from their current location in, is it Gemini 1, Jay? Gemini 1, sometime in the next few weeks, they will move to D50. They'll move down close to, well, it'll be the classroom adjacent to the business classroom where Miss Utter is at. That'll be a good space for them on a variety of fronts, and maybe next year there'll be some opportunities to kind of see what we can't do to get some of those students perhaps interested in utilizing their skills that they would learn in business in a court reporting genre, as it were. And so that's coming up as well. One last thing that I'll mention, and you've received some emails on this, and we'll hope that the transition goes as smooth as possible. You're going to see a change in our phone system, I think starting, Andy, what, about 1st of March?
March 8th, I believe.
March the 8th. I think Andy and some of the other folks in IT have been going around and trying to get information, etc. As an end user, you shouldn't see much of a difference. It's going to save the district about anywhere from $8,000 to $16,000 each and every year going to the new system. It'll be easier for us to manage. You'll actually have a little bit more versatility in terms of utilizing your cell phone in conjunction with our phone system, etc. And so that's going to be kind of starting and getting close to being finished before spring break. And so we'll work through that. Probably impact some of the offices more than it will anyone else, but that change is coming as well. I believe, unless somebody in the audience has some burning question, and I have a feeling none of them do, but hopefully that gives you a good update. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.